two wouldn't dare to do that. Solomon took a deep breath. I know that I'll be sorry. I'll see what I can do. The secretary offered Daniel to sit beside her desk, to eat the meal she brought him: grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, bread, and fruit salad. Daniel stared at his plate and looked across the closed door of the principal's office. He hesitantly grabbed the bread and began eating. When he saw the principal coming out, he put down the piece of bread he held on his hand. "Oh, Red, take him please to the preschool children's quarter, until we decide what we do." The secretary smiled at Daniel. After eating, she took his hand and led him to the new building, where they met Nitsa, the lady who was in charge of the house. "Hello." Nitsa bent over Daniel. His face was frozen. "I'm Nitsa, nice to meet you." "Come with me, I'll take you to your room," she said, as they slowly went upstairs. Daniel walked beside her. They got into the room, where there were 3 built-in double beds. Nitsa offered him a bed on the lower part. "Here's your bed. You'll probably prefer the upper part, just like everyone else, but it's already been occupied." Daniel did not look at her. He just laid down the bag on the bed and sat down. "No, do not sit down. Let's go find you some clothes." She led him towards the storage. Although it was still undecided what to do with him, and she had not yet received any instruction or approval to give him some clothes, she could not ignore the pretty little boy, who kept carrying with him the old fading bag, as if there were some treasures in it. She pulled off a few clothes from the shelves, and led him into the dressing room, helped him dress from time to time. For the first he smiled at her with gratitude and great satisfaction in the face, as he left the storage with a big bag full of shirts and pants. "Just put the bag in that closet. Don't arrange them yet." She preferred to speak to him in Hebrew, although he did not understand a word on what she said. They went down into the playing room, where there were kindergartens. Daniel was lying in bed. Lights off, he was scared. He wanted to cry, but he feared that it was forbidden. Last night, when he slept in the basement of Deborah's house, he had been warned not to make a noise, but tonight, he could not help but cry. He stuck the lapel of his shirt in his mouth, to strangle the shedding of tears in his eyes. But this time, the tears were stronger than any threatening psychological hindrance. "You can cry, sweetheart, that's fine. I know that things were not easy for you lately. It has been rough, but I'm sure that after a few days you will feel much better, and everything will be all right. I promise you." Nitsa's words, even if he did not understand them, calmed him down. She did not try to stop him, but rather continued to caress him until he felt his eyes closed. Solomon was sitting in his office, that he used for the last 15 years. He didn't know how he was going to explain to the rabbi about his decision in accommodating a Christian boy instead of a boy who was supposed to arrive next week. 4 children were supposed to be housed in each room. Not long ago, they added 1 more double bed, and there was no way to put another additional bed. There was only 1 bed available. The rabbi and the yeshiva star called him several times, but Solomon avoided the phone calls with couples of excuses. He knew what the rabbi wanted to discuss with him. It was about the letter he sent to the family of the child, informing them that they could not accommodate him to the boarding school. It was obvious to Solomon about the priority of the rabbi, and avoidance was currently a comfortable step. He hoped to find the right words to convince the rabbi, who was very extreme in his opinions. The secretary came in and informed him that the rabbi was again looking for him. Solomon saw anxiety in her face. She didn't like to lie to the rabbi, and which was right. Solomon took his coat and intended to leave the office for 2 hours, to save her from embarrassment. He left a stammering message of his whereabouts, and rushed to the front door. But then reality hit him faster than he thought. While preparing to leave, the rabbi showed up in his doorstep, escorted by 2 young rabbis standing behind him like bodyguards. Solomon felt some uneasiness. Just a moment ago, the secretary informed the rabbi that he was out of the office, and now he was standing right in front of him. The rabbi entered the office, while he ordered his escorts with an angry gesture of his hand to wait outside. "I just came back. I wanted to call you. There was this family that their child..." Solomon wanted to continue, but the expression on the face of the rabbi explained that he didn't believe any single word that came out from his mouth. "I see that you are avoiding me. Be it clear to you that you can't get away from today's agenda and impose the law on you. But right now, I have something more important. Would you mind to explain to me what's going on here? Look, I examined the situation of the 2 boys. That leads me to a decision. To prefer a Christian kid over a Jew. No. But what can I do? The social worker just left the boy here. Where will I throw him? Okay, I need to convene all concerns regarding this matter, but you should know that at the end, the kid will eventually out of here." The rabbi held his beard between his thumb and his forefinger, trying to read Solomon's facial expression on what he said. Seemingly, Solomon was not bothered by his warning. When the rabbi sensed lack of seriousness from Solomon, he banged the table and stood up with a deep feeling of bitter anger. "You know, Solomon, this time you upset me. Who do you think you are anyway? You're just my personnel. You work for me, and not the other way around. This kid will be out of here, that's all." The rabbi went out, slamming the door. Solomon went out of his office and headed straight to the kindergarten, looked around, tried to find Daniel, but he was not on the yard. He went inside the kindergarten, and there he found him sitting reading a book. Solomon took the book from his hands and began to scan page after page. "What will I do with you?" The question was intended for himself. He felt a very deep compassion to the little boy, who lost his mother just a couple of days ago. He wanted him in this boarding school. He knew that he will be fine here. But if the rabbi will go on his decision to hold a meeting, the child will surely be kicked off here. He looked up high and prayed to God to give him any sign or clue that will lead him to the right way. Solomon left his house that was in the school compound at early noontime, after his eyes were widely opened all night. But even as he sat in his office, the thoughts about Daniel didn't give him rest. He criticized himself in carrying out his decision, despite the rabbi's behavior, but he couldn't avoid it, because he knew that the rabbi's consideration was intolerable, since most of the money that was donated to the boarding school came from friends of Israel community in exile, and most of them were not Jews. The secretary passed him a phone call that detached him from his thoughts. Solomon paused a bit. He was afraid that it was a call from the rabbi, and he decided not to answer it. A second later, the secretary entered his office. "That was from the yeshiva of Rabbi Zohar. They are asking you to answer it right now." "I'll call them in a few more minutes," Solomon tried to delay the end. He knew what the rabbi wanted to discuss with him. He didn't have any solution that will settle the point of view of the rabbi. On the other hand, the sleepless nights he had gone through strengthened his decision to keep Daniel in the boarding school. I figured through his voice that it was very urgent. The secretary convinced him to answer. Solomon hesitantly picked it up. Yes. Are you sitting? Shimon, the rabbi's secretary asked. Yes. What happened? Solomon got himself ready. Come to the yeshiva immediately. The Honorable Rabbi had a car accident on his way to the yeshiva in Bnei Brak. He died. Come here right away. The words were stuck in his mouth. Well, I understand that you're upset. Get in here, everybody is already here. We will go together to the rabbi's house. Solomon was shocked. He was afraid that his prayers were answered. They say, warn your prayers, they may come true. And Solomon prayed for something to happen that would keep Daniel in the boarding school. And his prayers were answered in a way he never thought or would have wanted to happen. Now he was shocked. He felt that he had murdered the rabbi. Is everything okay? The secretary asked. At that moment she noticed the pale face of Solomon, and rushed to give him water. Sit down, O Rita, he said, and she sat right across him. What happened? She asked again, worried. Rabbi Zohar died this morning in a car accident. Orit was shocked. Orit, I'm sorry for leaving you in this kind of condition, but I need to go. He got up with a coherent decision, passed through the kindergarten. He felt that his guilt burdened his sorrow. He looked for Daniel and found him again reading a book. Pack up his things. I will take him to Ziana's office, he told Netza with determination. Is the boy leaving? She asked sadly. Yes. And I'm not going to talk about this? Rabbi Zohar died in a car accident, and I am going to keep his last quest from me, to get Daniel out of here. Netza was shocked. She said, When did this happen? This morning, but I heard it just now. Netza cried. Look how many orphan children he left here. How can someone so righteous like him dies? It's unbelievable. She kept talking, while Solomon sat right across and shared the grief with her. When she calmed down a bit, she turned to him. We are in the state of grief right now. Why don't we wait for one more day just to give ourselves some time to think? Maybe it's just a coincidence. It can mean a lot of things, you know. Netza tried to take back her inference. No, Netza, I already made a decision. And don't call the death of a rabbi a coincidence. Solomon scolded her. That's right. But Daniel is just a small boy. Netza remembered the promise she gave to Daniel, though he didn't understand, but it was a promise. She decided to do everything she can to keep him in the boarding school. I don't understand. If the rabbi is not with us anymore, why can't we keep the boy here? Who will apprehend us? Solomon was shocked by her words. The fate of one person positively affects the destiny of another, was unacceptable for him. It was even some kind of cruelty, but he didn't want to comment on her behavior. This was all about his fault. My prayers killed him, he said with a soft voice as he closed his eyes.